It turns what we have into enough and so much more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. Gratitude can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, and a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. The words of Melody Beattie. Welcome to this evening's concert, dedicated to a contemplation of gratitude. We are deeply grateful for all of you who chose to come tonight to listen to us and to the Brockton World Music Ensemble perform musical works, all of which have a focus on expressing gratitude. Due to the generous donation from the Meek Center for use of this venue for tonight's performance, the proceeds of the performance will be used to support the students in fulfilling their dream of traveling to Beijing this summer to perform their piece, a work of musical art co-composed by all members of the ensemble that expresses the mind and heart of gratitude in their lives. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the program that operates or that we have at Brockton, it's the Brockton World Music Ensemble. And its defining feature, or one of its defining features, is that it's completely inclusive. None of these students have auditioned to be in the ensemble, and all students, regardless of their musical background or their prior musical training, are welcome to be here. So that's the first thing that's kind of cool. Secondly, the course runs, and the ensemble runs by developing skills, musical skills, primarily on percussion instruments like the djembes, but also there's some voice training for a few people, and a lot of the students study privately outside of our group, and they bring those skills to our ensemble. And we use these developed musical skills to express global themes. So we kind of both thought it doesn't make much sense to learn how to hit a drum just for the sake of learning to hit a drum. It makes a whole lot more sense to learn how to hit a drum to say something, to express something. So this year, our subject matter was gratitude. Everything that you will hear on the stage here reflects gratitude in some way.
The students started by writing gratitude statements. These statements just poured out of them. Amazing what they came up with. And once they'd written gratitude statements for the things that they were most grateful for in their lives, we took a look at what they wanted the entire piece to sound like. And what they mapped out in the design cycle was they wanted it to sort of have 5 parts, to be kind of like an arc. They wanted it to start mysteriously. Then they wanted it to go into kind of a wistful, contemplative, meditative, nostalgic section. And then we talked about how sometimes gratitude means overwhelming joy, that feeling of excitement. So they wanted a kind of a celebratory section in the middle. And then they wanted it to go back to a little bit wistful, and then they wanted it to end as it began, mysteriously. And in the very opening, they wanted to really create something that was very meditative. And so they chose to use a minimalist structure. Minimalism is where you take a very short melodic fragment and you repeat it over and over and over again. And the idea is that you just sort of sink back into this melodic idea. There's no thinking involved, just relaxing and experiencing sounds. So that was sort of the map of the piece. Now, what we did is, Adrian and I took a look at all of the hundreds of gratitude statements they had written, and we got a sense of what were the most common words or themes that kept coming up again and again. And we boiled it down to 5 different words. The first word is nourishment. The second one is valued, to feel valued. The third one is loved, to feel love in their lives. The fourth one is to live a joyful life. And the 5th one was to feel safe, so safety. So when we had these words extracted, that was sort of the common theme among all of the gratitude statements, we got the students together, broke them off in separate rooms and separate groups, and said, okay, here's a C major scale. They knew what that was. Now we want you to model your compositional process after Steve Reich. Listen to the word, for example, nourishment, and try and make that sound like music. So this is what all of the groups came up with, without exception. Nourishment, nourishment. For them, that was the sound that nourishment makes. The next one was valued and loved. What does that sound like if we turn it into music, copying the rhythmic and the melodic structure? Well, they talked about the fact that when they say valued and loved, their voices go up at the end. And the groups came up unanimously with valued and loved, valued and loved. And then they came up with a joyful life, a joyful life, a joyful life. And then they came up with I feel safe. I feel safe. It was just amazing how they all came up with exactly the same musical material, give or take a note. So we sort of took the average. And then what we did is we came up with a melody that had all of those little ideas in it. So we have nourishment, valued and loved, a joyful life, I feel safe. Well, how can we make a melody out of that? So I'm going to get Jody to hold the microphone, and in a minute you'll hear Jody play this melody just beautifully. If you can hold the microphone, please, Jody. Yeah. So here we have all of the pieces of the gratitude statements together into a long sort of strung out melody and with some simple harmonies in the left hand. Nourishment, valued and loved, a joyful life, I feel safe.
Sometimes it seems so easy to focus on negative things and to speak harmfully about one another. When I hear bad things about other people and cultures, I really feel frustrated and fearful. We should break the walls that stand between people and cultures. With our friends and our teachers, we should make each other feel like our own sweet home. When I dream of the future, I see a world where we are grateful for all that we have, where people are inspired, where things happen that make us feel alive, where we respect one another and feel appreciated, and where we feel warm and joyful inside. This is the world of gratitude. This is a world of peace and understanding.